Today on the show I review Netflix's Daredevil series. Hello and welcome to the show with issues. I'm Auram, and it has now been a couple weeks since Netflix dumped all of season 1 of Daredevil onto the internet. I think I've had enough time to collect my thoughts and fit them into a review, so that's what I'm going to be bringing you guys today. My comprehensive review of Daredevil. I will warn you though, it's pretty long, so grab a snack and let's get started. I want to start this review off by saying that I am a very Marvel-biased person. My first encounter with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the exciting world that Marvel Studios had begun to create, was with Iron Man 2. Back in 2010, or something like that, I was 11. I was at my friend's house, and a lot of the time, at the end of the night before everyone would go to bed, we would all like to watch a movie. Him, his family, and I. We watched countless other movies. I can remember one night when we were watching Bolt and I wasn't feeling particularly well, so I called my mom and had her pick me up, but I digress. One fateful night though, his dad wanted to watch Iron Man 2 as they had just got it recently and hadn't watched the DVD version yet. Now, I know Iron Man 2 isn't a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it was the film that sparked my young mind's interest to pursue the content that I've since had the pleasure of watching, reading, and experiencing. I believe I got halfway through Iron Man 2 while only semi-paying attention before I fell asleep. I didn't even know what I was watching, but a part of me knew that it was something more, I guess, because the next day, I felt compelled to seek out the first Iron Man and begin something truly magical. Ever since that day, things just kind of spiraled. I quickly caught up on everything involved with the MCU and began to anticipate the next two films to be released, Thor and Captain America: The First Avenger. But those are both stories for another day. All of this Marvel stuff just filled me with joy. I wanted all of it, more of it. I was content with the films as I was distracted by other things, school, video games, the like. Eventually, however, that proved not to be enough for me. I'd always known that there were comics, but as most everyone is, I was intimidated by the rich history that each book had to offer. So at the beginning of last year, I made a Google search that changed my life forever. Or at least that's what my melodramatic 16-year-old brain thinks right now. I typed in the search bar, where to start with Iron Man comics, and found a Tumblr post that led me in the direction I needed to go. Now here we are almost a year later, and I have 2 short boxes filled with single issues and an entire bookshelf filled with trades and omnibuses. It's modest, yeah, but it's something. The point of this anecdote is that while the Marvel films, comics, video games, whatever you've experienced aren't the best works of art you've ever seen, they still bring the utmost amounts of joy to kids, adults, anyone. So yeah, I'm Marvel biased, and I used to think that was a problem as most, if not all of my friends don't feel that same unadulterated joy that I feel for the media. But now, I don't care at all. I think that everyone just needs something that gives them that pure sense of imagination and wonder. But that's not what this video is about now, is it? No, this is a Daredevil review. So now that I've poured my heart out about the subject, why don't we actually talk about the damn show? Daredevil is one of those Marvel characters that goes mostly unnoticed by the general public. Sure, if you go up to some random person on the street and show them a picture of the Man Without Fear, they might recognize him and could possibly even give you a name, but he just doesn't have the same amount of popularity that heroes like Captain America or Spider-Man have. That'll probably change soon though. Look at where Iron Man is now. He's practically a household name because of the MCU. So when I heard that Daredevil would be getting his own show, I was very surprised. When they announced that Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist would also be getting shows to eventually all culminate in a Defender show, I was blown away. But I think I was also scared. Marvel Studios creates content like a heart-pumping blood, and as a lot of people will tell you, that can get tricky. When you're making so many things all at once, quality starts to drop off. Things get shaky, reviews drop. Daredevil proves that wrong. Now, some of you may bring up the fact that Marvel Studios has been producing shows along with their movies for a while now, and that stuff, while not being amazing all the time, hasn't been total shit, right? I don't think I'm gonna argue there. I personally love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter and everything else Marvel Studios does, but I don't think the scope of what Marvel is really doing has hit me, and maybe you, until Daredevil dropped. The closer and closer we got to this show being released, the more I started to look around and realize how big of a juggernaut Marvel has become. As I'm writing this review, the last trailer for Avengers: Age of Ultron has been released, Ant-Man promos and trailers are still being released slowly, and we're already getting possible set photos from Captain America: Civil War. That's insane! Age of Ultron hasn't even been released yet, and work has already begun on next year's summer blockbuster that will surely bring in millions. But while all of that is happening, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is finishing up its 2nd season, with talks of a spin-off show to start up, and Jessica Jones is already well into production. So how can Marvel make all of this content at the same time while still keeping the quality of everything they produce so high? Well, I don't work for them, so I couldn't tell you. but I do know they make some damn good entertainment. Daredevil is no different. We are introduced to the world of Hell's Kitchen, New York, which frankly is not the best place in the world. I mean, it's called Hell's Kitchen, what do you expect? Anyway, we're introduced to our protagonist, Matt Murdock, and throughout the season are shown his childhood and how he came to be where he is now. He's a blind man who spends his days as a lawyer and his nights fighting crime as a man in a mask. Nothing too original here, but then again, not much in comic books is. I won't bore you with the details of who Daredevil is or how he got his powers. Watch the show or do a quick Google search for that. Anyway, I think that's not what makes this show what it is. The core of the show is the ideology of Matt Murdock, why he's doing what he's doing. He just wants to make his city a better place and uses his abilities to at least try and make a difference. All of this can probably be said for the comic book interpretation of the character as well, and I'm not very good at writing reviews, so I'll move on to the specific things about the show that I liked, and then get into what I didn't. Yes, I did have gripes with the show. Oh, and I should probably mention that I'm going to try to avoid spoilers as best I can, but seeing as it's a review of the show in its entirety, something might leak through. I suggest watching it first, but if you do just want a quick answer as to whether or not it's worth your time, it is. Okay, so first up is the acting. As with any show or movie, the acting is one of the most important things involved, and I'll be damned if this show didn't nail it. Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock and Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk might be the best casting Marvel has done since Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark or Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson. The nuance that both of these actors bring to their characters is amazing to me. I love it when actors bring something to their character that really identifies them, like a special tick or habit. For example, D'Onofrio as Fisk in this show tends to twitch his hand when nervous or intrigued by something. It's subtle, but really pushes the emotions of the character onto us. I also am very impressed with what they were able to get away with in regards to the Kingpin. In the comics, he is just a typical crime boss who wants all the power in the world and will stop at nothing to get what he wants. This is the side of him that you see in stuff like Spider-Man. But when he's around Daredevil, things change. He becomes a deeper character with flaws and sometimes even likable traits. This is done sometimes in the comics, but Vincent D'Onofrio, and I assume the writers as well, take it to an entirely new level in this show. There's not a single actor or character in this show that I thought was taken in a bad direction or felt fake at all. Everyone just did an amazing job here. That's really the core of what makes this show so good, but of course there were other things. Two others, I think. The cinematography and the action. Cinematography is one of those parts of the filmmaking process that goes largely unnoticed by most people, and I may sound pretentious for saying this, but I definitely notice it, and I think there are people who will appreciate that. That being said, there are some shots in the show that had me speechless. Continuous shots that lasted for minutes surrounding fight scenes to just simple stills were amazing. Now that I think about it, I think one of my favorite scenes in the entire show is my favorite because of the cinematography involved. The other thing I wanted to talk about was action. Action is a lot of those things that a lot of people just chalk up to showboating to draw in crowds who don't really care for the story, and that might be true, but it's also an integral storytelling element. Honestly, if the Avengers didn't have all the fight scenes, would you like it as much as you do? Anyway, I think that the action in this show is some of the best action we've seen in a Marvel property since Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And if you saw that movie, you'd know how big of a claim that is. The action in this isn't as intricate as that of the Winter Soldiers, but it's definitely extremely well choreographed and never really felt out of place. The only time I could almost cringe at the action was when the show took a leap toward the more comic book side of its source material and left behind the gritty, realistic world it had set up for us. And I saw no problem with that because it was a healthy reminder of what I was watching, a superhero TV show. Now that I've gushed about Daredevil for a while, I think it's time I talk about what I didn't like about it. And honestly, there wasn't much. The things I did see wrong with the show were pretty nitpicky, and nothing was too glaring, annoying, cringeworthy, stupid, or anything like that. My biggest irk about the show as a whole is the constant grain that's on the footage. I don't know if it was intentional, but if it was, I'm not sure why they chose to go that way. Noise, when used right, can pull off a very interesting effect, but it just felt unwelcome here, and almost made the whole production seem less professional. Another one of my problems with the show is that the directors didn't seem to ever want to stick with one style of shooting. One second we were handheld with the camera shake and all, and the next we were locked down to a still. I can remember a few times where two sides of a conversation were shot with different styles, cutting back and forth between shaky cam and still shots. It's just jarring and throws me off. I like that handheld feel when it comes to action, but it has no place in the narrative parts, in my opinion. I think my last problem with the show is that they seem to spend a lot of time on things that began to lose my interest as they went on. Each episode is almost an hour long, which is fine, but I feel like the writers had trouble filling that at times. Scenes just tended to overstay their welcome. I was constantly not wanting the show to end though, and when I finally got to the end of the line, I felt satisfied and was happy with what I had just watched. It also helps to know that this is the last we'll be seeing of the Man Without Fear. So those are the main things I wanted to talk about. I've never done this sort of thing before, sitting down right after watching a movie or show to review the thing in its entirety, but I like it. It gets your thoughts down on paper, gets creative juices flowing, and sometimes you go places you didn't expect to. I find a lot of the time that the more I talk about something I watch or read, the more I understand it. There are, of course, more points I wanted to hit in this review, but I think I conveyed my feelings clearly enough. It might not be healthy to know without a doubt that the content someone produces is going to be of great quality every time, but some people need that. There's a security in knowing what you like and being able to fight for it. Who cares if Thor: The Dark World or Iron Man 2 aren't masterpieces? They mean something to someone out there, so who are you to tell me I can't sit down and enjoy them? Anyway, I think I've yelled at you guys enough. Hopefully you all like this review. I know I had fun doing it. Average week again in terms of pull numbers, but still some exciting books. I'll be getting 6 titles including New Avengers issue 33, All New Captain America issue 6, and Convergence issue 3. Anyway, here's the rest of my pull list with Marvel and DC stuff. And that's it for this week. Longer episode, I know, but I really think Daredevil deserved the time I gave it. Really awesome show. Before I close up shop for today though, I do want to remind you guys again that if you ever have anything you want me to cover or talk about, feel free to tell me in the comments. I'll gladly do it, but thanks for watching as always. Next time I have my cake and eat it too. There's a plane, it's a loud, loud plane. There's a plane, there's a loud, loud plane. Waiting for the plane. Waiting for the plane. Doing my comic book show, but there's a plane, so I can't. It might not be healthy to know without a doubt that the content someone produces is going to be of great quality every time, but there's a plane. Plane, 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 there's a plane, plane, plane. It's a plane, there's a plane, plane, plane. Oh my god, plane, seriously?